What's up guys, we're back today with day 2 of the Goldbox Megasquirt install. You can see I've got all of the parts right here and we're actually going to be installing most of it today. This should be a very quick build, just swapping everything out. So if you missed the last video, what we went ahead and did is pulled out the old engine harness. It's right here in just a pile. We really won't need a lot of this. We're going to have to go ahead and cut off the fuel injector harnesses. As well as the throttle position sensor, but that is it pretty much. Now what we're going to go ahead and do right now, I'm going to go ahead and play a clip of how to properly wire up this harness. So if you remember, I bought the DIY kit, it was the cheapest option, and I went ahead and did all of this myself, this pinning. There's actually quite a few wires that come already pinned, but there are a few you need to go ahead and put in, especially this black harness. You need to do it all yourself, so I'm going to go ahead and play that for you now. Alright guys, here we are with the Megasquirt and all of the wiring. So when we get the Megasquirt, it comes with two separate harnesses. You can see I've actually already put them together into this one big coil right here. But there is a black connector and a gray connector right there. So they're each going to come in their own little pouch. That one, the pouch is somewhere else. But basically it's super simple the way we're going to go ahead and set this up. So for the gray connector, we're actually only going to put in either 0 wires, depending on your build, or up to 2 probably. You can see right here this purple one on top. This is the sensor for the 2-step, so I went ahead and put that in. I'm not quite sure how to wire it up quite yet, but I went ahead and stuck it in just for the future. And we're also going to go ahead and pin right in next to it the flex fuel sensor. So I'll go ahead and take you through how to do that. But this was the gray wires. You can see there's a bunch in here we do not use. This is a kit for a Chevy LS, so you kind of have a lot of wires you're not going to use. As for the black connector, it comes with all these black wires in it, and nothing else. And this is pretty much fuel injector and coils for all of your cylinders. And that comes in that wire bundle. You can see it actually came in 2 coils. This one right here, pull that out, and then this one right here. There was actually nothing used in this one. There is a fan wire, this yellow guy right here. So if we wanted the ECU to trigger when our fans turned on, we could do that. But if not, you actually don't really need anything in this little bundle. And then that one was just injectors and coils for 1 through 8. Those right there are just 7 and 8 for the coil and the injector. Now, coming over to these guys, what we're going to go ahead and do is it's super simple to go ahead and pin these. You're just going to take a little flat blade. See if I can zoom in on this for you guys. Give me a second. So on the side here, there's a little tab. You're just going to go ahead, push your fillet or flat blade in like that, and then you're actually going to pull up on the red part. And I found that it was a lot easier on the black connector than the gray connector. What I had to do is get a second one and actually wedge it into this little crevice right here and pop it up. So once you do that, it'll go ahead and you do it on both sides, and this red part will actually come up so that it's no longer flush with this gray here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you guys from there. Alright, so I went ahead and grabbed a random wire that we're not using. This is for the Knock 2. It is just something that we're going to go ahead and remember to use just for flex fuel, because I don't have any knock sensors as an NA engine, and we definitely don't have 2 knock sensors. So we definitely have this one right here. It is going to be free forever. So we're going to go ahead and on the back of the cable, the harness right here, let me see if I can show you guys. You might be able to see in the corners, you might be able, right there it says 12. We've got 1, 12, and then on the bottom 24 and 35. Those are pin numbers. So right here, it starts on pin 1, goes all the way up to pin 12 on the top. You can see the purple cable right there that we have for 2-step is in pin 10. Or sorry, that's pin 9, I was wrong. And that's the way it shows in the user manual. So what we're going to go ahead and do is put this Knock 2 cable for our flex fuel in pin 8. So it's going to go right next to it. So once you have the red part out in the front, you can see it kind of comes up like that. We're just going to go ahead and take this pin and actually just shove it right through the back and get it right up into there. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick and I'll show you guys. Alright, so it was as simple as just pushing it straight through the back. There are a few seals you have to get through, but once you do that, you can go ahead and just press down the red front here again until it clicks on both sides, and you should be able to see each of the pins right there. There we go, you can see all of the nice little pins in there, and they're all at the same height and they're all lined up properly. So that is how you know everything is set correctly. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Same thing on the black connector for all the injector and coils. And then we have our entire wiring harness done. You can see I've already put it in this black sheathing. I'm going to have to go and run this new wire through here. But other than that, we have this entire wiring harness done, and we can go ahead and stick it in the car and start wiring everything up. Alright, so now that we know how to go ahead and pin this entire harness right here, we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to go over every little thing that I have here and just talk about what it is and why I have it. So let's start up at the top here. This is a flex fuel sensor. So if you guys can see through the packaging, it's a flex fuel. I've got fittings for it already. I already bought this before I decided to go ahead and do the Goldbox, but thankfully the Goldbox can do it, and it's really easy to wire it in. So I'll go ahead and take you through that as well when we get to wiring. We'll go ahead and go down right here. These are new spark plugs. These are the BKR 7E right there. That's the NGK part number. These are a step colder than the stock plugs, which is what you want for an NA2T to make some good power. We'll go ahead and move over here. This is an intake air temperature, IAT. We have to tap and drill into our intake for that, and I don't have it quite yet. It's in the mail. So that's going to be one of the last things that we do. Moving on over here, we have a map sensor. See if you guys can see this. A map sensor. It's got a little port right there. This is the one that recommended by, I think it's DIY Auto Tune, that makes the gold boxes. Or I'm a little confused. It's EFI Source for the Goldbox, but DIY Auto Tune does Megasquirt. But the point is, this is what they recommend, and this is what works. So I went ahead and got the sensor and a harness for it as well. These are ignition coils. So a lot of time you'll see people do LS coils. I didn't want to buy a bunch of coils for it. And there was a guy on Facebook Marketplace selling these 350Z coils for 20 bucks. So I got all 6 of these, plus a bunch of other 350Z stuff that I'll probably just throw away because it's just like an intake and stuff. But I got 20 bucks for 6 coils, and I already looked at them, and they look like they're going to fit just perfect. So we'll go ahead and work through that. You do need to secure down your coils. That's what this little thing is here for. So I'm going to see if I can 3D print some brackets for it. We'll go ahead and get into that a little bit later in the build though. These are connectors for it. So this harness here, the black one specifically, has a bunch of wires for each individual coil. These are 3-pin, which means you have a positive, a negative, and a signal. So this has the signal wires for each of the coils, and then we'll go ahead and wire up a positive and a negative, and then span it to all of these to charge it. Now back onto the harness real quick. If you guys remember from the last episode, I went ahead and destroyed the old grommet that goes through the firewall. So I printed a new one. This is 3D printed flexible material, and it really snugly fits over the sheathing here. So it should be nice and waterproof, or at least water resistant, with as much as this sheathing is already open. You could get like a cloth engine harness tape and go over it the entire way to go ahead and seal it up. That would be the best way to do it, but I'm a little impatient. Now when we do get to this, we're going to have to pull a few wires out this end still for the tachometer, for the, I don't think the speedometer is part of it, but we do need the coolant temperature sensor as well. Coolant temp and tach. And then also for 84 through 86, you're going to have to buy a separate piece for the tach because they work off of a lower voltage, they work off of a higher voltage signal that is typically from the ignition coil. But because we're going with standalone coils, coil and plugs, we're going to go ahead and have to bump up a signal coming out of the Goldbox up to about 100 volts in order to run our dash. So we're going to have that box. I'll show you how to wire it in. I don't have it quite yet, but it should be here very soon. So we're going to go ahead and pull just a few out for that. Also, the 2-step wire is going to be wired up to our clutch pedal. So if the clutch is in and we rev it up, it's going to hold it at 3,000 RPMs and retard the timing a bunch. So we get that cool 2-step. Moving on, we have this. It comes with the kit. So this is a new trigger wheel for your crank angle sensor. Go and see that. This is actually the upside down. This is the top right here, as you can see. We're going to go ahead and pull out the old cast, the old trigger wheel, and put this one in. We can use the old cast, that's fine. We just need this new trigger wheel. And then obviously we have our Goldbox. I'll go ahead and show you guys if you haven't seen it. On this side there's 2 connectors, black and gray. And then on the other side, if I can pick it up, we have a USB, a serial, and an SD card slot. We're probably going to go ahead and put this towards the seat, towards the door opening, and then this towards the back. I think it'll just be the best way to compact it. And we're going to try to go ahead and utilize these mounts again, but I might 3D print a bracket for them to go on. Now, last thing, this guy right here. You guys remember from the last video, we cut this off the old harness. This is what runs the dash. So the coolant temperature and the tach are going to be going through this. And I believe we also pull switched power through this as well. There's a black right here, which is a nice ground. And then there's a big yellow. I believe that is the power. We're going to go ahead and double check that in the FSM because the color changes every year. So if you guys are going to be doing this with me, remember to check the FSM for your specific year because it will change a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and wire that in. I forgot I think it's this red right here is the red, and then there's a black in here, and that's the main ground. So that's the main ECU power and ground. And those are both, or the power is switched again. That is pretty much it, guys. This is a bunch of the wiring that is left over in the kit. So what you're going to want to go ahead and do is you're going to need some extra wiring for some stuff. You're just going to want to do a few extra wires here and there for whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what I have to wire up. But the thing is, you want to wire that is strong enough to withstand the heat. So this right here came with the kit, so I know it's good. It's 18 gauge, and it should be able to survive the heat properly, because that's what the rest of this is made out of. But if you want to go ahead and buy your own wire, you need to make sure it is up to 100 degrees Celsius. That's a lot of degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know. But you're going to want to make sure a lot of wires are actually up to 70 or 80 degrees Celsius. So that's still kind of a big difference. But because we have so much extra wiring here, remember this was for an LS, so it was an 8-cylinder, so we have a lot of extra wire. We're just going to use this. You know, it'll be just fine. So let's go ahead. I know that was a lot of talking and a lot of explaining, but let's go ahead and start sticking this in the car. I'm going to start up with shoving this through the firewall and getting it all. Well, so first thing I'll do, I'll actually just pull the wires out on this end that we need for the dash and then the power. And then what we'll go ahead and do is shove the rest of it through the firewall, and then we'll get this into the engine bay. Alright guys, so before I go ahead and start putting this in the car, it's just going to be easier for me to show you out here. Basically on the gray connector, we're going to take out pin 9 if you're going to do 2-step. If not, you don't need to worry about it. And then 26 and 27, which are your tachometer out, as well as the fuel pump, right. So this is going to go ahead and control fuel pump and the tach. Again, with the tach, we're going to need to go ahead and get that adapter box, but it'll be fine. So you can see I pulled them out of the harness. They're right here. And then one thing that I did, I went ahead and grabbed just another bundle of cables. Right here I got these 3. I chose orange because there aren't a lot of other orange cables in here. So it's going to be easy to differentiate them. But you can see they're just not hooked into anything. I'm not going to put them in the connectors. What these are for is if I'm going to, like say I have my coolant temperature sensor in right now, which just comes up to a dash gauge. I don't want to have to run a cable for that already. So what I can do is just put it through here already. So I've got 3 different cables running through here. So I can put my gauge into this and it comes all the way through and it'll be in the cabin. So I don't have to go ahead and poke holes through this or try to get any wires through that already or anymore. So I'll go ahead. This is going to be like a coolant temp gauge. This one is going to be a signal for my relays in the engine bay. So if you guys remember, I have my DRLs as well as the fans. They are on a switched relay right now, so when I turn them off, they turn off. Technically, you don't have to do that anymore with the fan because there's a fan cable somewhere in here. It tells it when the fan to turn on, when to turn off. But that's the relay controls the DRLs as well, so I'm going to be using it for that. And then I have a third one here. I haven't actually chosen anything for it yet. It is just going to be in there in case I need it. So that is how it is going to be, guys. I'm going to go ahead and start sticking this in the car. All these loose ones are going to be on the interior, and this side is all on the interior. And let's see how this goes. Alright guys, I went ahead and did a little bit more modification to the harness I'm going to let you know about. I pulled out one more pin, or one more wire out of the harness, and that's pin 24. That is the ECU power. It is the switched 12 volts that we're going to get, and it's going to be from the interior, so we want to have that inside as well. I did leave the ground through the rest of the harness because in the instructions it says that you want to go ahead and ground that to the cylinder head. So we're going to go ahead and do that to make sure we do a good job grounding it. It said that a frame or chassis is not a good ground, and I'm going to believe it. So we're going to go ahead and leave that through there, and we're going to ground it somewhere on the intake. I also went ahead, right here is my wideband. I went ahead and fed that through because we're going to need that through the firewall. So if you don't have a wideband, I suggest you get one because it's actually extremely helpful. But you don't need it if you don't necessarily have a wideband. And then a few more things. You guys remember I put these 3 through before. I went ahead and put 2 more. The reason for that is, actually it's not those 2. I have a bunch of cables coming through here now. Because we need AC. We need to go ahead and figure out which dash harness plug that goes into. So one of those will actually trigger our AC. And then the other one was something else. Let me figure it out real quick. Right, the other one was for our dash temperature sensor. So if you remember before, it just had a single like kind of plug that went onto it, a spade plug. We're going to go ahead and just run a single cable just for that. And that'll go, instead of into the ECU and out of the ECU, it'll just go straight into the dash, because that's what it's expecting. So there you go. I went ahead, I put everything through. I just need to go ahead and feed this back on to the rest of the sheathing here. It's just a little bit tight now. And this is the O2 sensor. I had to put this on backwards because it won't fit through there. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get this all coiled up now perfectly, and I'm going to go ahead and install it in the Z, which is way over there. Alright guys, big progress. As you can see, our new harness and grommet are in, and they fit great. You know, I'm super excited, glad that really worked out. But now, let's see, as you can see here, I've got those 2 connectors on the inside. I've already mocked them up, and they will fit perfectly if we have the connectors going backwards. And now let's go out here and see. Yep, let me get this straight for you guys. Alright, you can see here is our wiring harness. We have plenty of loom, so we're going to go ahead and probably go back kind of where the stock harness was. And then, because I want to kind of do a sort of wire tuck with this, we're probably going to have it come about right here and then kind of just distribute forward. We do have a few things for the O2. That actually doesn't go into the harness. We have the TPS right here, and then we have our CAS. This is the CAS wire. Oop. This is a harness for it. It goes up over here. We're going to go ahead and do our best to tuck all of these. You can see I've already mocked up these coils. They don't quite fit perfectly. So you can see on this side, there's little tabs right there that are holding them down really well, and that's great for these 2. The rear one doesn't have anything near it. And then on this side, the front one doesn't have anything near it. And then these ones, I think I'm going to go ahead and come off of the valve cover bolt right next to it with a little aluminum bracket. So that's going to be a little bit of work, but I'm going to go ahead and start working on the wiring, and I will update you guys in just a bit here. Alright guys, so here we are with the intake manifold. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is drill and tap a hole for the intake air temperature sensor. So you can see I have a couple drill bits here, just a small one, and progressively getting bigger until this one, which is 37/64, 37 over 64, and then we have a 3/8 tap. That is what the sensor takes right there. So we're going to go ahead and progressively get larger. One thing to note, this is a kit I have. It's from Drill America. If you just look up 3/8 NPT tap, what you're going to come up with is this Drill America set. And you'd be like, perfect, you know, $8 for both the drill bit and the tap. But this is actually made out of carbon steel, which is actually pretty weak. And it's only good for tapping wood and plastic. So you don't want that. So I did a little bit more digging, and I found this one here. I don't know if you guys can see the engraving on it. It looks like you guys can't see the engraving, but it says HSS, which stands for high strength steel. So when you're looking, you want a tap that is high strength steel. I believe this drill bit is high strength steel, but the bit is carbon ceramic, or something, whatever the carbon is. So you're gonna want to get one that is the high speed steel, I believe is what it's called. But anyways, what we're gonna go ahead and do, I'm gonna go ahead and put mine right here. So this is where the throttle is, and it's going to be just about a few inches behind it. I was thinking another spot might be right here, but I don't know how close to the firewall this is going to be, because this is like right towards the back right there. So putting it right here wouldn't be bad, because if you look, it doesn't really protrude too much, maybe an inch. But I think that's just a little bit too close for comfort on my end. You can look at your car before and just kind of figure it out, but I just really wanted mine right here, a little more easy access, so I can go ahead and bring the wiring up around with the throttle position sensor and just stick it in right there. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to drill some holes, get progressively larger, and then I'm going to go ahead and tap it, and then we'll go ahead and seal this with some sealer's tape, and then put it in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright guys, well I went ahead and tapped it, and I have to say it went really, really well. I could have probably put it just a little bit further up, because I started hitting this guy right here when I was tapping it with the tool. But you know, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I actually broke out some of these like weird deep socket 16 fit over the end of it. I will say, see if I can figure out what brand this is for you guys. It doesn't really say. I'll go ahead and see if I can find the brand for this and then put in the link, because people in the comments said it was extremely sharp. And from my experience, this was just an absolute blast. You know, I don't know if a lot of taps are pretty dull, but this thing, it just cut through it like nothing. It actually made me feel like I was stripping it at some points, because it was just so easy. But really, it was great. One thing I wanted to tell you guys is, if you can see, I put a towel inside of it. Because we did get a lot of metal shavings in here. So I wanted to try to collect as many as I can, but we're also going to go ahead and get the air compressor and blow this out now, because we don't want those metal shavings getting into our intake. You could probably get this like cleaned, like sonic cleaned or whatever they call it, and that might be the better alternative. But otherwise, guys, I am super, super excited with how this came out. I'm going to go ahead and blow it out real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and install the sensor and make sure everything works. Alright guys, went ahead and blew this out, and it just really didn't do the best job, so I went ahead and washed it out with water. So I'm actually going to go ahead and let this dry overnight on top of a heater vent, so that it'll get nice and dry, because it's cold and things don't really want to evaporate. But I went ahead and test fit the air temperature sensor. Go and set it in there. And it's a little loose. I wish there was a tiny bit thicker of a wall that we had in order to put this in. But I think it will be just fine once we go ahead and put some thread tape on it. It'll be nice and sealed up, and will be perfect. We've got plenty of room here. You know, might put it like that, and then put the this is the brake booster hose. But we should be fine. And if not, you know, we can probably do a little just squishing in here to get it to fit. If I was to do this again, I would do it just a little bit higher to get it away from this guy. So if you guys are me, or at least just angle it, you know. But I have a picture of it, what it looks inside. Go ahead, and it should be on the screen right now. And it is perfectly right in the spot of air that's going to be coming through. So it should get a very accurate reading. So I'm very happy with this. And we're going to go ahead and move on to another part of the build now.